This video is dedicated to Outlaw. Outlaw, thank you for supporting the EDH channel. Rin and Seri, Inseparable, versus Jodah Archmage Eternal, Teysa Karlov, and Elenda the Dusk, which does now work when it goes to the command zone from the battlefield. We don't have a very good hand there, so let's try and get into some ramp. Alright, that's a lot better. We might empty our hand quite quickly, but we've got some ramp there at least. Nothing much to shout out about on the first turn, but down comes a Suture Priest from Teysa Karlov, followed by an Orzhov Signet for the 5-colour player, and then an Arms Collector for us. So we've got the next few turns lined up. Yeah, we can go Kodama's Reach next turn, and then consider our commander, maybe an Arms Collector after that. No turn 2 play from Elenda, but a Burnished Heart does come down for Teysa. That will gain them a life. I have played with Elenda since the M21 update. I don't know if you've seen the game yet or not. I don't know what order I'm going to release everything in. But yeah, the death triggers do occur now. So you don't have to send Elenda to the graveyard. She can go into the command zone and you will get the vampire tokens from her. The same is true with any commanders that have death triggers. And now from the Jodah player, in comes an adventure card. Search for a basic, put it onto the battlefield and shuffle. And then for 7 mana they've got access to the Beanstalk Giant, which has power and toughness equal to the lands you control. Okay, an Enlightened Shooter for us. If our opponents start to run away with the game, I might have to... Yeah, I'm going to put a stop on the upkeep. We might have to go for a Soul Ring with that. But I'd rather go for a token doubler. Get a Mountain into play tapped, and then we've got a bunch of white in hand, so we'll play a Plains next turn. The first spell from Elenda is Pawn of Ulamog. That just cares about their own non-token creatures dying, I think. Yeah, I always like the idea of this, and then I don't really bother playing it because you don't get as many tokens from it as I would like. If it triggered on any non-token creature dying, then it would be a lot better. But it's only your non-tokens, and in a token deck, I don't find you get as many Eldrazi spawn as you would typically get from another type of effect like that. Burnished Heart being cracked during Teysa's turn, so that does encourage me to go for Soul Ring during the next upkeep, I think. We'll just have to hope to draw into one of our 3 token doublers later on. Then another Burnished Heart comes down, this time from Jodah, so these 2 players just concentrating on ramping in the early game. Jodah wants to obviously fix colours as well. I don't think... Oh, they've got a green source from here, but they don't have many others. Anyway, leaving the mana up for that. They've got double blue as well, so they might have a counter magic spell, but I wouldn't have thought so. They'll probably just want to crack this thing. I am going to go for the ramp, seeing as how everyone else is managing to ramp themselves. I think we can go for a Soul Ring here, can't we? So then we play a Plains, and then we'll have 5 mana, so I think we're just going to try out our commander, aren't we? And we just need to hope that there isn't a Swords being held up over here. I'm not sure I would use a Swords immediately on Rin and Seri, to be honest, but people do get trigger happy. If they've got the mana held up and the removal in hand, they just tend to use it just because. Then the second commander comes in, Elenda the Dusk, and some mana being tapped over there. I don't think that's counter magic. Yep, decided to go for the Burnished Heart now, so clearly not feeling threatened by the Teysa Karlov player. If the Suture Priest swings in at them, then hopefully they don't lose by 1 point of life later on. Oh, they can also have the Pawn of Ulamog go in at them, so they're actually going to suffer 3 points of life needlessly. Assuming that the Suture Priest goes in at them. They took the 2 damage there when they didn't need to. And now the third commander in a row, Teysa Karlov, followed by your Henny, Undying Partisan. Yeah, the one thing that you don't want your opponents to have in a Teysa deck, or an Orzhov deck in general really, is a sack outlet, and that's a really good one. Your Henny going in towards Elenda, hoping that they will block in response. I'm sure they won't. And then the Suture Priest goes in at the 5-colour player. And I'm just noticing actually that there's a couple of gates over on Jodah's side of the field, so I don't know if they're going for a Maze's End type win, or if that's just some mana fixing for them. And it is part the Water Veil that they go for. Take an extra turn after this one and exile it. And that is an Awaken card, so I wonder if this is like a lands-based deck, because Beanstalk Giant cares about the number of lands you have in play as well. Anyway, ending their first turn with Elysian Caryatid. And in the second turn, going for Emergent Ultimatum. Search for up to 3 mono-coloured cards with different names and exile them. An opponent chooses one of those cards. Shuffle that card into your library. You may cast the other cards without paying the mana cost. So we're going to be put between a rock and a hard place here, I imagine. Let's see what we've got. Possibility Storm. There's Kothafed and Whip of Erebos. I mean, I would definitely put the Possibility Storm back into the library. And it is Elenda that's having to choose here. Yeah, our opponent makes the right choice in my opinion. Kothafed is coming into play, as is Whip of Erebos. And Kothafed seems to be a risky one when you're up against Elenda. In my experience, Elenda can get absolutely huge, and then if the tokens come out and see a board wipe, then you're going to be forced to lose a bunch of life and draw some cards with this. But they've also got a lot of life gain if they manage to swing in every turn thanks to the whip. And not done there, they follow things up with Eyes Everywhere. At the beginning of your upkeep, scry 1. Exchange control of it with a target non-land permanent. And that costs 6 mana. And no one else at the table has any blue, so we're not going to be able to fling that around the table, unfortunately. Anyhow, there's a Cathar's Crusade. My plan was to go for Mirror Entity this turn, get a couple of cats and, well, get a cat and a dog, because the Changeling cards do count as both cats and dogs, so they trigger our Rin and Seri twice. But yeah, anyway, Mirror Entity and then hold up Crib Swap and Arms Collector, but Cathar's Crusade is very tempting. I think we get down the Cathar's Crusade now, and then hope that our board state stays intact, hope that we don't look too threatening, and we can go for the whole Mirror Entity and hold these two up next turn. The first Aristocrat comes down for Elenda. Erebos, God of the Dead, comes in. That will switch off life gain for all 3 players actually. There's life gain here. We've got it strapped to our commander as well as a couple of other things in the deck. And then there's the Aristocrat effects and the lifelink vampires. So yeah, Erebos is actually going to do some work here if no one manages to get rid of it. Luckily for us, it's just a side effect of the deck. We're not really looking to gain a lot of life and win with that. They draw a card with Erebos, and then deciding to swing in towards Elenda with their commander. And they just decide to take it, go down to 33. Jodah dumping a bunch of his mana into an ever-flowing chalice that has... it doesn't tell me. I think it's 4 counters. It cuts off at the side of the screen because why wouldn't it? And then going down to 0 cards in hand, and oh good, they get rid of this thing. I was actually considering continuing to slow roll things out next turn and going for a Chroma's Memorial. It's really, really slow, but if we manage to set up both the Chroma's Memorial and Cathar's Crusade, we can start getting out a bunch of big tokens that can just swing in at everyone straight away. And no one's really looking at us so far. Some lifelink flying damage coming in at the Teysa player as well. It might be that this player has a Chromatic Lantern or something that they can activate this with, but it's likely that that will be staying there for the rest of the game. They get the scry off it at least. Okay, a pack leader for us will take us into a cat token. Yeah, we're missing land drops, which I very much... yeah, I don't like that at all. 2, 4, 5, 6 and 7 is exactly enough for a Chroma's Memorial. I think I am going to go for that. And then I think it's fairly safe to go in at the 5 colour player because the creatures that we'd be worried about are black anyway. Plus they don't have any cards in hand. So let's go in at them. Most of the creatures on board that we would be worried about are black actually, so as long as a Chroma's Memorial sticks around we should be able to block everything quite nicely, as well as swing through everything. Yeah, really hoping that we can keep hold of a Chroma's Memorial until next turn. We'll get a bunch of tokens into play with plus counters on them. Gauntlet of Power. Are they going to go for white or black there? They're going to help a few players out at the table either way. Hopefully it's plain so that we can make use of it. Nope, they're going for black. They've only got one basic swamp, but that's a lot of extra mana over here. I'm not sure I would have played that, to be honest. They might not know that this helps everyone at the table out. Yeah, that's a bunch of black mana over here. And there's one here as well. Then Falconwrath Noble swinging in over here as well. Oh, Sheoldred comes down now, and that would take us off of our Rin and Seri. Luckily, we've got the crib swap, so we'll be able to sacrifice a cat or a dog. Probably sacrifice a cat, because we do have a dog lord in our hand. So yeah, probably going after the Sheoldred with the crib swap. Although I'd really like to get rid of the sack outlet. Then following things up with Solemn Simulacrum, I dare say they'll go for a swamp here thanks to the double mana. Then deciding not to swing in at anyone, Sheoldred will trigger at the beginning of Jodah's turn. They'll probably just get rid of this thing, tapping it for mana in response. And then that is surprisingly the first death trigger that we've seen so far. Seems as though these two Orzhov players are going to end up helping each other out, whether it's their intention or not. So a couple of death triggers means a couple of plus counters on your Henny, and then we get the Falconwrath Noble pointed at us, as well as a plus counter going on to Elenda. The Beanstalk Giant coming out now, and that is a 9/9 with lifelink, thanks to the Whip of Erebos. This is the only player at the table that can actually gain life because they stole the Erebos, God of the Dead. They drew a card with Erebos and got down another Guild Gate, so yeah, I'm just going to play around the fact that they might have Maze's End in the deck. Kothafed going in at Teysa, and the Erebos going in at the Elenda player. And they decide to block the Pawn of Ulamog, so they will get an Eldrazi spawn here. So a bunch of triggers occur there. The Kothafed is keeping them in cards. They are now to 3 cards in hand. And they've got the mana to play more stuff. So taking Teysa down to 28. I'm just wondering, on this turn now, can we develop a big enough board state to actually just take this player out? Because if we can, that dictates where we go with Crib Swap. So we get a couple of tokens with Crib Swap, a couple with the Mirror Entity. If we draw into a land, we can go Pack Leader as well. Let's just assume that we're getting 4 tokens. We will have 3 tokens in play after we sack 2 Sheoldred. That's 4, and then 5 creatures in play. I think we might be able to take this player out. Let's go for a Crib Swap as opposed to the Arms Collector. And I'm going to go after Elenda just because it's a lot of tokens to play around. We don't have protection from them, and this player is starting to get cards in hand, so as much as I would like rid of Kothafed, they might have some kind of removal in hand. So, yeah, I really don't want them messing with us. So here we go. We go Crib Swap onto Elenda. That will not trigger Elenda. We get a dog and a cat from the Crib Swap. Suture Priest will trigger, and we will lose a life per creature that comes into play here. I think I actually should have put the dog into play first because we are going to keep the dog. So that's going to lose a plus counter here. And then Sheoldred will take us off of a cat. Like I said, I should have put the triggers on the stack in a different order. The Henny will continue to get huge. That is another draw from the Kothafed. Like I said, I just want to keep this, leave this player alone for now because they might have had removal in hand that messes with our board Probably should have gone for Kothafed there and just risked it, but I'm hoping that we can get fairly close to taking out the Teysa player this turn. Okay, no land for us. We do have double strike there though, but we can't cast it without double red, so maybe it's just Arms Collector in that case. Although we want double the tokens, don't we, for, yeah, a lot more damage, so let's go in for Mirror Entity. We'll put Cat on the stack first, so that the dog enters first. And Cathar's Crusade doing some great work for us here. We're just shy on mana, unfortunately. We haven't been making enough land drops. Yeah, it would have been really good to get down Pack Leader. It would have gotten us into a cat as well as a +1 buff on all of our dogs. But we'll just swing in like this. I don't think we quite have enough to take them out, unfortunately. That is 14, 18, 20... 23, yeah, so even with the extra plus counter on the dog that we missed, it still wouldn't have been enough. So let's go into attacks, and we'll swing all of these in at the Teysa player, because we want rid of, well, their entire board state, really. Yeah, that Sheoldred is going to be tricky for us. But the Sheoldred keeps the other players in check as well, at least. So knocking them down to 5... yeah, they will get drained by the Falconwrath Noble. This is whenever Falconwrath Noble or another creature dies. So if there's a board wipe, that probably takes this player out. So we might have done enough to get rid of Teysa here. And one creature is going to die with Sheoldred. And this is when it's relevant where the Erebos is on the field. Because now this player can't gain any life. They are in some dire straits here, I think. A Toxic Deluge where X is 11. And that's not accounting for the fact that Yahenni can sacrifice at instant speed, so that's not going to kill off the Yahenni. And we're all going to have a massive Yahenni to deal with here. They will gain 2+ counters per creature they sacrifice. And I think them sacrificing their commander, thanks to the death triggers occurring now, from your commander, I think they'll get 2 from this as well, because it will count as dying. So if our opponent was going to go for wiping the board there, they needed to put a lot more life into it than that. It might be that they've got spot removal for Yahenni though. Oh, and not seeing it. Alright, mistakes galore here. And the game might crash anyway. Let's return our commander to the command zone. Yeah, this is the problem with Aristocrat decks. I'm actually not going to auto-yield here because I'm going to try and help the chance along of the client not crashing. And this is exactly what I was talking about. Kothafed is going to draw our opponent a lot of cards here, but they're going to lose a lot of life as well. Yeah, that's 13 life they're losing. Well, it's held up so far. Let's just hope that it can actually manage to make its way through all this stuff. Yeah, clicking through the triggers one by one seems to be allowing the client to keep up with all of this. So hopefully we can have it not crash on us. I'm noticing as well that none of these Falconwrath Noble triggers are being pointed at Teysa. So that's interesting that they decided not to take the Teysa player out when they had the chance. Erebos did go down there. As we can see, it's in the graveyard. It went down to Toxic Deluge because this was a creature when the board wipe occurred. So they are going to gain some life from the Falconwrath Noble triggers. And there we go. Managed to limp our way through there and allow the client to not break. So we'll be able to carry on with this game. Yeah, got a couple of players at a really low life total now. We've done well just holding back in this game. Dark Imposter coming out now. That is able to exile things for 6 mana. Now, with all that mana, let's hope that Teysa doesn't have a huge mana sink. It looks as though they do. Yeah, really wouldn't have played this Gauntlet of Power into a bunch of basic swamps. Yeah, there we go. Exsanguinate. Well, it takes out this player at least, unless they've got some means of surviving it. They've got 18 cards in hand, so we don't want to see them survive this, really. Yeah, there we go. Takes them down. And now I wonder if we want to go for a very cruel play in Arms Collector, and I think Wheel of Fortune works with Arms Collector the way I think it does. They jump all the way up to 41. Yeah, let's see if we get into a land finally. We do, that's really good, so we can get out. I think we will go for a Stomping Ground. Oh no, what's the Tiger is what I'm thinking. So now we could try and set up with our commander, but I think the safest play is the Arms Collector into the wheel. So that gets a plus counter on it. And then we'll go for the Wheel of Fortune, and that is going to have us draw a bunch of cards. Arms Collector, for anyone who doesn't know, is if an opponent would draw 2 or more cards, instead you and that player each draw a card. So instead of 7, they've now got 1 apiece, and get rid of a bunch of stuff. We'll have a look at their graveyard in a second. Don't have enough for the Nature's Law, unfortunately. Finally getting into all these lands. I dare say this thing is going to come in at our Arms Collector next turn. So let's just go in at the player that has the least life. And we'll try and get rid of 1 player at a time. Akroma's Memorial is going to be really, really good. If we can have it stay in play, that is. Okay, so let's just get rid of a couple of lands. We'll get rid of Forest and the Sunpetal Grove. I'll keep the Cavern of Souls because we might be able to use it as a red source if we're desperate. And then we need to remember that we can cast this thing for free if that Dark Imposter decides to come in at us. Alright, not going for the Dark Imposter, instead going for Palace Siege. We'll see if they name Khans or Dragons. They go for Khans with that, so at the beginning of your upkeep, return a target creature from graveyard to hand. They've got plenty of those. And this swings in at the other Orzhov player. What did they discard anyway? They had Nakana Revenant, which is more black mana doubling. A Well of Lost Dreams. A Malakir Blood Witch, so they've obviously gone for Vampire Tribal with the Elenda. I tried the Vampire Tribal thing with Elenda and it's just not as good as general token builds, so I plumped for that in the end. And let's see over here, Exsanguinate we obviously saw. Oh, Bolas' Citadel was really good to get rid of. Dictate of Erebos, another good one to get rid of. Living Death, wow, they had a really good hand. Yeah, glad I went for that. Wheel, as mean as it was. They decide to get down their Teysa again, making great use of the double mana from the swamps. And then an Anointed Procession, we could do with that ourselves. This player is at 0 cards in hand now. And only 1 card over here. Okay, Dismantling Wave. Let's have a look. Can we get rid of that mana doubler? Yeah, we could get rid of Anointed Procession and the mana doubler. I'm not sure how useful it is now that they're in top deck mode. Even without the double mana, they'll be able to cast whatever they want. It's just Debt to the Debtless we would be worried about, really, there. But I think I'll risk it. Let's go Unclaimed Territory, and we will name Cat. We've got way more cats in the deck than we do dogs. And I think we can go for Nature's Law. That'll give us 5 mana for the Frostfang, and then 1, 2, 3 for the Skyhunter Skirmisher. Yeah, let's go for that. We'll play the Skyhunter Skirmisher first so that it can have as many plus counters on it as we can manage. Yeah, the double strike is going to be relevant here, the more plus counters we get. Then we'll make use of the Oran Frostfang. Draw some more cards with that. Every time I've played this thing, it's been really good. So what have we got here? We've got 12 points of damage there, 15. So yeah, I think we just have to continue to try and get rid of the Orzhov player over here. So we'll turn everything sideways at them. And this will draw us 3 cards, assuming that the Oran Frostfang sticks around. It does, so we draw 3. Get into some more stuff. Yeah, I think we're going in for our commander next turn, and then maybe a Hungry Lynx or a Bolt Hound. Actually drew 4 cards there, thanks to the double strike. Path of Ancestry is a tap land, so we'll just get rid of that one. Highly doubt anyone's going to swing in at us next turn, but if they do, we've still got that Ambusher that we can play for free. They targeted their Malakir Blood Witch. They've hardly any vampires in play, so not at all worried. about the Malakir Blood Witch, although they might use it to gain some life, even if it only is a little bit of life. Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing. That has protection from white, but it doesn't mean that they'll suddenly be able to block this. In fact, these two won't be able to block each other. And there's the Sheoldred again. Not sure... Was it this player that had a Sheoldred in play? I'm not entirely sure. Oh, was it this? When it enters the battlefield untapped, put a target creature from the graveyard on top of your library. Okay. So we've got a Sheoldred to worry about now. We could sacrifice the Sky Hunter Skirmisher and then just grab it back with the Sun Titan. I think that might be the plan to go for here. Alright, and then we draw ourselves into Beastmaster Ascension. I don't think we can go for our Commander and Sun Titan. We don't have quite enough mana. Yeah, that's definitely 6. Yeah, we're just 1 mana shy after we play a land. I think it is just Sun Titan into that double striker again. Let's play the Kessig Wolfrun. Play the Sun Titan as well. We'll put Thor's Crusade on the stack first so that we can get our cat into play, our double striking cat. And then that will get the plus counters from the Sun Titan entering. Now then, we could just swing in with Sun Titan, grab the Mirror Entity, and make everything a 5/5. Yeah, that might be a means of dealing a heap of damage. I think I'm going to go for the more fun play, to be honest. Let's get down the Bolt Hound, and then I'll get down the Hungry Lynx as well. So not getting a bunch of tokens when we do all this, unfortunately, because it's not Edgar Markov, but still playing a bunch of cats and dogs, which is, yeah, a lot of fun. 2 cards in hand over here. They might have removal, but we'll just send in an Arms Collector there. And then everything else can go in at the other player, and we'll just hope that we win this one. Bolt Hound is going to give everything +1 to its power. Sun Titan will trigger, and we'll get down the pack leader because it hasn't seen any action this game. So as you can see, that comes down. Other dogs get +1/+1, and it prevents all combat damage to your other dogs when it attacks. It obviously hasn't attacked this turn, so we can still have damage done, but not by any creatures that are in play because they're all black. Akroma's Memorial has been a godsend this game. And I think that's the game for us. Yeah, there we go. Take them down to -3, so only just got rid of them. What would we have drawn into with the Aurum Frostfang? Okay, we were getting into even more lands, doubling season a bit late there. Yeah, the Encampment Keeper is a good one as a finisher. That's in here for flavour reasons instead of something like a Craterhoof Behemoth. You do really need haste to make it relevant, but for 9 mana on a dog with first strike, you can give all your creatures +2/+2. Anyway, huge shout out to my opponents. Those were 3 internet randoms, and it's not often that you actually have a game reach completion like that with 3 randoms, so a big thank you to them. Hopefully you all enjoyed this one as well. The Cat Dog Tribal deck. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.